Hello, second grade friends, and welcome to Number Corner. For Number Corner today, we will be playing the rows and columns game in our daily rectangle. You will need your Number Corner book, a pencil, and you'll need to open to page 33. You can pause the video now to get what you need. Now, when we record the rows and columns game, remember this is similar to the game we played last month, except this time we are coloring in grids in our workbooks to show our arrays instead of building them with tiles. Each team will take a turn to roll the dice to find out how many rows and how many columns they get to color in their grid and make an array. And then write two equations to match. We'll be playing teacher versus students. When each team has had 3 turns, they add the number of squares in each of their arrays to get a final score. The team with the higher score wins. Let's have a look at our record sheets. Now remember, you only need one record sheet when we play this game. You're working on the student record sheet. Remember, this is on page 33 in your student book. This is my record sheet. You don't have to worry about writing anything down in red. When you're looking at this sheet, I want you to think about some things that you notice. Do you notice how many squares are in one of the grids? Now you may have noticed that we play 1, 2, 3 rounds, taking turns. You may also have noticed that each grid has 36 squares. This black line, horizontal and vertical, is showing you 25 squares, and then 11 more for 36. We talked about how to count those up a little bit last time. Now that we've had a look at our record sheets, let's get started. Now I'll go first, and then it will be your turn. Remember, our first roll is telling us how many rows we record. So roll 1, I have 3 rows. I'm going to put a 3 on my record sheet, and I'm starting at my star to mark 1, 2, 3 rows that I will color in. Now I need to know how many columns I need. So I'll roll my dice again, and I rolled another 3. I write my 3 up at the top for 3 columns, and I can mark them off 1, 2, 3. Now I kind of outlined what my array will look like, so I kind of already know what it's going to look like again, and I can color it in pretty quickly. Just filling it in all the way to the edges so I know exactly how many squares, but I don't need to take a super long time on it, but it should look like a square. Now I need to think of an equation to write to match my array. So I'm thinking, how many squares are in each row? Can you show me on your fingers? If you're holding up 3, 1, 2, 3 squares for each row, good work. An equation I could write would be 3 plus 3 plus 3. Well, I know 3 and 3 are a double to equal 6, plus 3 more is 9. Now I need an equation for my columns. How many squares are in each column? Can you show me on your fingers? If you're holding up 3 fingers for 1, 2, 3 squares in each column, good work. Now I want you to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up if you think my equation for my columns will be the same as my equation for my rows. Thumbs down if you're not so sure. I should see a big thumbs up. Why do you think I'll have the same equation? Well, if you were thinking because, well, if we have 3 rows and 3 columns, Well, this is a square, and each side of my square has to be the same, so my rows and columns have to be the same, or it's not a square. So my equation would be 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9 again. And my total squares would be 9. Now it's your turn. Let's go a little faster this time. Let's roll your dice. You rolled a 4. What does that tell me? If you're thinking, it tells us your rows. You're right. Let's mark them off, starting at our star. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Now we'll roll again. What are we rolling for? If you said our columns, good work. Let's mark them off. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be following along in your student book. This is your record sheet to be filling in. Well, now I need to fill this in. Do I have a pretty good idea of what this array will look like? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Oh, I should see a big thumbs up. Yeah, I have a really good idea. And I can fill that in. If you need to pause it to fill this in a little better with your pencil, you can do that. I'm even kind of coloring in my square so it doesn't get too messy as I color it in all the way to the edges to have a nice square again. How can we write an equation for our rows? I'm thinking about the squares in each row. Show me on your fingers, how many do you see? You should be holding up 4 fingers for 1, 2, 3, 4 squares in each of our 4 rows. Our equation could be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals, well, I know 4 and 4 is a double to equal 8. 4 and 4 is a double to equal 8. 8 and 8 is a double to equal 16. So I know it's 16 squares inside of my array. So I'll write a total of 16. What about for our columns? What could our equation be? If you were thinking, well, it would be the same. Good thinking, it's the same because our rows and columns are the same. It's a square. So our equation for our columns is 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals, well, it's the same, so it must have the same answer of 16. Back to my turn. I'll roll for my rows. I'll have 5 rows, my 5, and I'll roll for my columns. I'll have 2 columns. Now I need to mark my rows starting at my star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And mark my columns. 1, 2. Can you tell what this array will look like? Oh, I should see some thumbs up or some nodding heads. Yeah, we can tell because we have an outline. And I'm just going to color it in with my marker. Remember, you're not filling this in on your page. You're just worried about what's in purple. So I have my array filled in. Can you think of an equation for my rows? How many squares are in each row? If you're seeing 1, 2 squares in each row, remember our rows go across. Good work. Let's write our equation. We have 1 row of 2 plus a second row of 2 plus a third row of 2 plus a fourth row of 2 plus our fifth row of 2. Well, I can count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I have 10 squares inside of my array. How about for my columns? How many squares are in each column going up and down? Well, if you're holding up 10 fingers or saying 10 or thinking 10, good work. That's our total all together. I almost made a mistake. In each row there's 5. So our equation should be 5 plus 5 equals 10. That's good thinking. We have 10 squares in this array. Now when I'm looking at our time, I'm seeing we might not have time to play all 3 rounds of this game. That's okay. We're going to play your last turn. I'm just going to cross out rounds 3 on each of our sheets, and then we'll see who's won after this turn of yours. Wow, looking at the scores, I think you have a pretty good chance of winning. Here's your first roll. You rolled a 4. So we need to write on your record sheet that you need how many rows? Oh, if you're thinking 4, you're right. 4 again. We had so many 4s last time too. 4 might be your lucky number. Let's fill in our 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Mark them on the side. Let's see how many. We will have 5 whats? Oh, if you're thinking columns, good thinking. 5 columns to mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Can you already tell what this array will look like? I should see lots of thumbs up. We're filling in all the way to our lines. You can pause the video to take a little more time to fill this in if you need to. I'm just going to kind of go quickly with my marker. Might take you a little longer with your pencil, and that's okay. Fill it all the way edge to edge, or it's not an array. What's our equation for our rows? You're thinking about how many squares are in each row. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares in each row. A good equation would be 5 for our first row, plus 5 for our second row, plus 5 for our third row, plus 5 for our fourth row to equal 10, 15, 20, 20. You can count by 5s. You can add your doubles together to get 20 however you find it. 5, 10, 15, 20. You have 20 squares. What would our equation be for our columns? We're thinking how many squares are in each column. We see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in the first column, plus 4 in the second column, plus 4 in the third column, plus 4 in the fourth column, plus 4 in the fifth column. Now remember, our rows and columns must be the same in each equation. So our answer must be the same, or it's not the same array. If we're looking at it either way from rows or columns, it still has to have the same answer, or it's not an array. You have 20 squares in your second round. Now we're going to do a little math to add these together to see who won. Now instead of turning my paper this time, I'm thinking for me as a teacher, well, I'm getting pretty good at my add 10 facts. So if I have 10 plus 9, well, I can do that pretty quickly. I can add my 9 into my ones place right over here, and I have 19. Show a connection if you were thinking of that strategy too. My final score is 19 squares. For your score, you can think about taking your 10s apart. If we have 20 plus 16, well, how many 10s do we have? Well, in 16, if I break it apart, I have a 10 and a 6. So I have 20, 30, and then my 6. 20 plus 10 equals 30, and then 30 plus 6 equals 36. Your final score was 36. Well, who won? You won. Circle the we won. And let's quickly go on the side of your page and think about how much you won by. If your score was 36 and mine was 19, can you think of a good equation to write to find the difference between the two? If you were thinking 36. I'm going to write it right up here. 36 minus 19. We want to find the difference between our scores. What does it equal? Well, that's going to be your job in Seesaw to find out how much you won by. Think of the strategies you have to solve that equation, to see how much you won by, and show your teacher the strategy you used. Good work in Number Corner today. I'll see you next time.